In tonight's Dateline Defense, tracking terrorists. Yesterday, the French President, François Hollande, honored those 3 Americans and 1 dual citizenship citizen for thwarting what officials have called a mass casualty attack. We're learning more now about the suspect. And for some insight, we turn to our guest this time on Capitol Insider. He's Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Shaffer, a CIA-trained senior intelligence operations officer. He's a best-selling author. He's also the senior fellow at the London Center for Policy Research. Colonel, good to have you with us
thanks
tonight. French prosecutors say the suspect in this case had terrorist intent when he got on board that train in Paris. But the alleged gunman's lawyers say he was just there to rob people. Is there any way that version holds any water?
Well, if you intend to rob people by shooting them in the head first and taking what they have, that could be a real scenario. But no, come on. This guy was already on the radar of French intelligence. He came from Morocco, which is a known hotbed of sympathizers and radicals. There's absolutely no way this guy was simply trying to conduct what some would consider an armed, heist, if you will. This man was out to do real damage. I think he would have gone through that compartment with the AK-47, which in those close spaces would have been devastating. Sure. You would have seen the death of probably maybe 24 folks. So clearly, this is the best they can do to get the guy off for something clearly he was planning to do that is a terrorist-related act. And
can we speak just for a moment about those 4 people who decided they weren't going to take it and they decided they were going to take back the situation? That kind of bravery, I don't think you can say too much about.
No, I think first off, the fact that we have such men willing to serve, men and women, but in this case men, who are willing to put their lives on the line. I mean, they really believe, I think they believed they were going to die. I mean, they knew this guy was armed. Fortunately for them, the weapon jammed, and they were able to take advantage of that moment. Otherwise, this shows that people can and should show up. And this was a Frenchman who was badly injured, obviously several members of our military, and kudos to them. This shows you the fabric of people we have in our ranks and what kind of people we should have in our services. This is absolutely the best possible example of our men in uniform.
Well said. Let's talk a little bit about the suspect here, that Moroccan national. He was on a terror list, as you mentioned, in France.
Right.
But wasn't known to other authorities, including the U.S. Information sharing has always been an important part of trying to thwart these cross-border attacks. Did this guy slip through the cracks, however?
Well, absolutely he did. I mean, clearly, anytime you have a terrorist suspect end up on a train crossing a border into another country, prepared to do a terrorist act, something went catastrophically wrong. And as you noted, we have huge information sharing problems even today. 9/11 did not fix them. It did not fix them at the international level. Let's be honest here. Some agencies just are not willing to share information. Others do not share information for purposes of benefit or promotion. They want to be the ones to take the guy down. Therefore, they consider the information proprietary and do not share it. And in many cases, such as this, we don't know exactly the moment in time when an individual is going to act on the radicalization they have become part of. And so that's a very difficult thing. James Comey has spoken about that here in the United States. We've had several incidents here. So that spark is what is very difficult to determine. In this case, the spark was missed, as was the fact this guy was armed moving across international borders.
We're looking at pictures of the Pentagon right now, and I'm struck by one thing. The old saw there is that the generals and admirals are always fighting the last war. Right. Maybe we're always fighting or defending the last terror strike, and instead of worrying about skyjacking planes and flying them into buildings and that sort of thing, we need to be a little bit more global in our view of things. This was a train, and trains have not necessarily been targets, but it's just another one of the many in this, if you'll pardon the bad pun, this target-rich environment.
Right. Well, the last time they actually, Al-Qaeda attacked a train back in Spain about 10 years ago, well, they said, no, it's not been a common target. We need to do 2 things better. We need to anticipate what they plan on doing and why they plan on doing it. This is an easy target. They went after it. And also the radicalization effort. We need to monitor more readily who's being radicalized, when they're being radicalized, and what that one element is. When they cross that line from being someone with a bad attitude to someone with a bad attitude with a gun, intending to do bad things, or with a bomb. That's the key here. We don't have that down pat. a lot of work needs to be done yet on that.
If we've been depressing people, let's talk to something that maybe offers a little bit of optimism.
Sure.
North and South Korea got together over a table, and after 2 days of fairly intense negotiations, managed to come together, and if nothing else, step back from the brink a little bit. The tensions had really been ratcheted up between those two countries, still technically at war after 1954. They agreed to end the semi-state of war, and North Korea expressed regret for putting some landmines out there. It's not quite an apology, but all this has to be viewed, I think, as a step forward.
We have to remember one thing that goes back to the entire time I've been an intelligence officer. Everything in North Korea is about regime survival. They will do everything they can to walk up to that line, to push our buttons, but they have no intention of crossing it. So as long as you understand that their primary objective is brinksmanship, you have to act as if you understand that. Now, the UN will do whatever he can to draw attention to himself, which he did a great job here, and pretend that they really want unification. If unification would actually mean the demunition of the North Korean regime. They don't want it. With that said, it will not stop them from acting badly. And frankly, they do have Seoul as a hostage. Seoul itself as a city was within direct artillery range of the North. So this is always something to take seriously, but I think something that clearly will be continuing to be averted by both sides.
There have been some reports, too, that Kim Jong-un is purging the ranks of the senior military leadership, that he may have a problem with the North Korean military.
He has, and this has been going on since his father died, absolutely. This happens every cycle. Every leader goes about very meticulously putting his own folks into power. And it's been a concern of ours that maybe a general or two may decide they want to go south, they may want to invade without the great leader's approval. That's always a danger, and I think that's what you see here is this kind of culling of the ranks, if you will, to make sure that people loyal to him, loyal to his regime and his ideas, will be the ones left behind.
Important perspective from Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Shaffer, Senior Fellow at the London Center for Policy Research. Colonel, many thanks.
Thanks for having me. Good to be on.